What's up, everybody? This is the Booch, and welcome to episode 2 of Booch Shoots On. And as you can tell from the title, I've got a pretty interesting topic to get into today. But before I get into it, I want to give everybody an opportunity to hit the subscribe button and ring the bell to be notified so you never miss any episodes of Booch Shoots On, as well as any additional YouTube content that I put out. And the topic I'm getting into today is why Christian doesn't deserve a solo spot in the WWE Hall of Fame. Now, this all started from a recent incident that happened on YouTube. Sorry, let me get something out of my eye here. And basically, here's what happened. As you guys know, a few weeks ago, they announced that the Bella Twins are going to be inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame. Now, some fans are cool with it. Most fans are kind of pissed off, and everybody's been writing their comments and giving their opinions, and basically what they do is they kind of say, you know, the list of people that they believe deserve the Hall of Fame, and they give a list of legends, they give a list of women who haven't gone in yet, whatever. But one particular name that kept coming up that really seemed to bug me was how badly everyone wanted Christian to go into the Hall of Fame. And I made a statement that pissed off a ton of people. And I said, Christian has done absolutely nothing to deserve a solo spot in the Hall of Fame. And that if he does get inducted into the Hall of Fame, it should be in a tag team with Edge. Well, you can imagine all the hate that I got for that one. Everybody telling me, like, get the fuck out of here, blah, blah, blah. You don't know what you're talking about. One guy said, brush up on my history, which is the dumbest thing anyone's ever said to me. Because anybody that knows the Booch, I know my wrestling history. When they create the WWE Encyclopedia, WWE sends it to me so I can check it over for mistakes. That's how well I know my wrestling history. Now, there's a lot of arguments that people can give back and forth as to why you think or don't think Christian deserves a solo spot in the Hall of Fame. What I'm going to do today is I'm going to base it off of the one thing that people kept saying made Christian worthy of going to the Hall of Fame, and that is his championship accomplishments. They started listing all the titles that he won. And here's the thing. Title reigns in this case mean absolutely nothing. They don't. Because, first of all, when it comes to championship belts, there's a booking committee that decides who wins or who loses those belts. So to me, I don't give a rat's ass how many championships you won. What I care about is, what did you do while you were champion? Because everybody's like, Christian's a former world champion. Yeah, well, so's David Arquette. Does David Arquette deserve the Hall of Fame? I mean, we all know eventually he's going to go in the Hall of Fame, but he's going to go in the celebrity wing of the Hall of Fame. He's not going to take a spot from a wrestler. So we know that much. And I decided that in order to prove my point, we're going to break down all of Christian's accomplishments. Now, this is a little bit blurry, so you might not be able to see necessarily what's on here. I know the camera's trying to figure it in. But I have a list of all of Christian's championship accomplishments. So we're going to break this down. All right? Let's do that. First, he was the ECW World Champion. He held the title for 204 days and then lost to Tommy Dreamer. He then would win the title a second time, hold it for 41 days, and lost it to Jack Swagger. Now, when Christian won the ECW World Championship, he won it during a time when WWE owned ECW, and they had it as a third brand on the Sci-Fi Network. Well, I could speak for every wrestling fan when I say that version of ECW was hot garbage, and no one took it seriously as a world championship. The only time WWE would even acknowledge someone as a former ECW champion is if that person was either returning from injury or been re-signed by the company and they used it to kind of amp it up. But at the time they were ECW champion, nobody cared. And here's another reason why I know nobody cared, was because whenever someone who was an ECW champion would go for another world title, that's when they would act like, oh my God, he won the big one. I'm sorry, an ECW title's not the big one, but now it is when it applies to when it's convenient for you? Okay, I guess we're going to go with that logic, but no, it's bullshit. ECW title meant nothing. The only time that title had any prestige was in the heyday of ECW, when men like Tommy Dreamer, Sabu, The Sandman, Just Incredible, King Carino, guys like them were ECW world champions. That belt meant something. Hell, the franchise Shane Douglas, who put that belt on the map. The only ECW title reign under WWE that meant anything was when Rob Van Dam won the title. When he beat John Cena at One Night Stand, won the WWE title, and then they tried to rechristen it the ECW title, but Rob Van Dam said, fuck it, I'm going to wear both belts. So it meant something when Rob Van Dam had it. Once he dropped that title, it meant nothing. It's a meaningless title and shouldn't count. It counts in some cases towards world titles, but most of the time it don't. It's whenever it's convenient. So if it's a title that flip-flops, it means nothing. Now, let's get to the other title. Christian is a 2-time World Heavyweight Champion, right? World Champion. Oh, that was the big argument. Christian's a World Champion. Yes, he was a World Champion. Let's see. He won the World Heavyweight title by defeating Alberto Del Rio. Everybody was happy. I was happy. The wrestling world was happy. We all wanted to see Christian win a world title in WWE. He held a world title in TNA, which doesn't count in this scenario because WWE doesn't own TNA, so they don't recognize TNA title reigns, nor should they. But we want to see him win a world title in WWE. And he finally did. And he held the belt for 5 days. 5 days. Lost it to Randy Orton. He would then, later, win the belt back from Randy Orton at Money in the Bank. And do you remember how he won it? Do you remember how Christian won the title? He spit in Randy Orton's face. Randy Orton kicked him in the balls. And the belt changed hands via disqualification. Now, maybe to some people in the delusional world, that makes you a credible world champion. To me, that was one of the worst title reigns ever. It was stupid, it was pointless, and it didn't help Christian. Because he would only hold that title for 28 days until he lost it back to Randy Orton in a no-holds-barred match. So, that's like 32, 33 days as champion. About 32, if I do the math correctly, which I know I'm not the best mathematician in the world, but I can figure it out. It's about 32 days. I'm sorry, 32 days is not a great champion make. I'm sorry. That's not Hall of Fame worthy in my book. I don't care that he was a 2-time world champion. His world title reign sucked. He was a transitional champion. Okay? It goes in the record books, but it doesn't make you a credible fucking champion. Then we move on to the Intercontinental title. Now here is where some people might try to make a case. He was a 4-time Intercontinental champion. He won the first title in a rivalry with Edge, held it for 28 days, lost it to Edge in 2001. He wouldn't touch the Intercontinental title again till 2003. He held it for 50 days, lost it to Booker T. Then he would eventually win the title back, hold it for another 50 days, and dropped it to Rob Van Dam. Then, his 4th and final Intercontinental title reign in the year 2012, he held it for 64 days, lost the title to The Miz. And none of those matches were memorable. None of those matches were classics. None of those matches were even remotely worth it on the card. And if you don't believe me, ask me this one question. How come in all the years Christian has been in WWE, we've never seen a Best of Christian DVD? We've seen one for Edge. We've seen one for John Cena. We've seen one for Randy Orton. We've seen one for Stone Cold, The Rock, Triple H. They've had dozens. Randy Orton's got one. Rob Van Dam had one. Christian never had. No one's ever said a Best of Christian DVD. Never once has any wrestling fan said to me, hey, remember that great match Christian had? And if they did, they were talking about him and Edge in a TLC match. His biggest accomplishments, and I'm going to get to that right now, he was a 9-time World Tag Team Champion. 7 tag belts with Edge, 1 with Lance Storm, 1 with Chris Jericho. Now, I don't care who you are or what you've done. If your number of tag title reigns are outnumbering your number of world title reigns, you're a tag team wrestler. I'm sorry. That's what Christian is. He's a tag team wrestler. He's a tag team specialist. Him and Edge are one of the greatest tag teams in the history of wrestling, and we're definitely one of the best in the Attitude Era. You want to put Edge and Christian in the Hall of Fame together? I support that 100%. But Christian going in on his own, I'm sorry. He wasn't good enough to be on his own. Edge, at least, was. Now, my personal opinion, I don't think Edge deserved a solo Hall of Fame spot either. The only reason he got one was because he broke his neck and retired, and we thought we were never going to see him again until this past January when we found out he was medically cleared and could get back in the ring. But at least with Edge, you can make a case for him going into the Hall of Fame. I can understand the reasoning. Like I said, personally, I don't think he deserved one, but I'm not going to complain about it. But at least I understand the argument. Edge won 11 world titles, which I thought was too many, but whatever. Point is, Edge had Hall of Fame moments as a singles competitor. He had a classic rivalry with John Cena. He main evented WrestleMania with The Undertaker. Outside of TLC, the only WrestleMania moment Christian really had was making out with Trish Stratus after she helped him beat Chris Jericho. That's his WrestleMania moment. Outside of that, as a singles competitor, what major WrestleMania moment did Christian have that people actually remember? The answer, he doesn't. He doesn't at all. Now here's his other accomplishments. He won the light heavyweight title in his debut with WWE and lost the belt a month later. So obviously, not that long enough to really do anything with it. And also, the light heavyweight title was a meaningless fucking title. Because the only reason the light heavyweight title existed was so that we could see a cruiserweight division in WWE. It was meant to combat the cruiserweight division in WCW, which at the time was one of the biggest money makers for the cruiserweight division. Not just because it showcased great, high-flying moves, but also it featured wrestlers who also knew how to work. Like nowadays, the cruiserweight title is basically a spot monkey title, where you see flippity-dippity-floppity bullshit. They run and jump and play and frolic. And in the WCW, though, you had a lot of the cruiserweight matches were on the ground. There was a lot of wrestling, grappling, ground game. Every now and then you saw a couple high-flying moves. But you saw guys who knew how to work. The cruiserweight division, WWE never stood a chance against the cruiserweight division. Their high flyers overruled whatever high flyers were in WWE. So the light heavyweight title became meaningless. That's why when they merged the belts together, it was called the WWE Cruiserweight title, not the light heavyweight. Because the Cruiserweight title carried more prestige and meaning. Also, he was a former hardcore champion. He defeated Mighty Molly to win that title and lost it to Maven that same night. Because it was the hardcore 24/7 rule. So, really, we're going to count that as a hardcore champion? We're going to make it seem like Christian is hardcore? I mean, yeah, he is if you count the concertos and the TLC matches and all that. But as far as a hardcore champion, he was just lost in the sauce. Then you have the European title, where he defeated Bradshaw. But that title reign was so meaningless, I can't even find online who beat him to take it from him. But he held it one time, and that title doesn't even exist anymore. So based on Christian's accomplishments, title-wise, meant nothing. As a solo wrestler, he did not contribute enough to get the Hall of Fame. And I believe I made a solid case for that. Now, classic rivalries, he had none. His biggest moments were with Edge. Once they split up, Edge went on to become a big star. Christian got lost in the sauce. Basically, Edge was the Shawn Michaels of the group. Christian was the Marty Jannetty. Now, obviously, he accomplished a lot more than Marty Jannetty did, but using that analogy, that's where they stand. So no, I stand by my statement. Christian does not deserve the Hall of Fame. Now, if WWE decides to give him a Hall of Fame spot, that's their decision. I'm not going to protest. I'm not going to bitch and complain. I'll just sit back and let it happen. But I'm standing by that statement. And I know there's some people on YouTube that have a problem with me saying that, but I don't care. If you can make a solid case, comment below. But your championship thing is obsolete. it means nothing. I just debunked that whole statement. Now, one person did ask me a valid point, and I'm going to get into that right now, where he asked me, like, okay, Vinny, you say Christian doesn't deserve the Hall of Fame. You're saying the Bella Twins do? Let me end with this. Yes, I do believe the Bella Twins deserve the Hall of Fame. Now, before y'all start commenting, before y'all start losing your minds, before y'all start getting triggered, hear me out. I agree that the Bella Twins are going into the Hall of Fame too early. We're in total agreement on that. Do I think there's other women that deserve the Hall of Fame more than the Bella Twins that haven't been in yet? Yes, I do. I also agree on that. I do think the Bella Twins are going in a little too early. But to say they don't deserve the Hall of Fame at all is ridiculous. I'll tell you why it's ridiculous. Because the Bella Twins did have an impact on WWE, and they were at the forefront of the women's division during a time when the women's division didn't get a lot of exposure or attention. But they were still at the forefront of trying to make that happen. They were a major part of the Give Divas a Chance movement. Not only that, when WWE finally got a women's revolution, when they had the call-up of Charlotte and Sasha Banks and Becky Lynch, when they came in, and I remember I was in Atlanta the night they got called up, and they had the Charlotte and Becky standing there with Paige, and they had Sasha with Tamina and Naomi, and then you had the Bella Twins and Alicia Fox. Those were the women standing in that ring. And they were the ones feuding back and forth with everybody. Because as great as those three women were and are in helping to make that happen, they still needed dance partners. You still need somebody to work with. Every great babyface needs an even greater heel in order to make themselves work. When Austin and The Rock were were babyface, Triple H had to turn heel in order to get to where he was. Because they didn't have any solid heels to go against them. So Triple H came in. Hulk Hogan, he needed Roddy Piper to be the ultimate bad guy, to his ultimate good guy, to make that work. Well, Charlotte and Becky at least, because technically Sasha was a heel, but Charlotte and Becky, they needed the Bellas. Because they had heat. And they had to make the magic happen. Not only that, the Bella Twins did have great matches with them, as well as others. And here's another kicker. Nikki Bella was the longest reigning women's champion for a good 5-6 years. She held the women's title for 301 days up until recently when Becky Lynch broke the record. Becky Lynch now is the longest reigning women's champion, and she deserves to be. No doubt about it. Not taking anything away from that. But Nikki Bella had that record for a solid 5-6 years. So when she was women's champion, she at least did something with it. Now, I agree that Brie Bella doesn't really deserve the Hall of Fame. But if she's going to go in, she might as well go in with her sister, because the Bella Twins as a team also did a lot. But Nikki definitely deserves it. Now, I know a lot of people don't like them because they're like, oh, they spread their legs for the locker room. Look, just because Brie Bella married Daniel Bryan and Nikki Bella dated John Cena doesn't mean they spread their legs for the locker room. Hell, most of you guys that say that, you also wanted Melina in the Hall of Fame. I seem to remember her spreading her legs quite a bit for the locker room. Obviously, Sunny, she's in the Hall of Fame and she had a promiscuous history. And here's the thing, I don't give a shit if they had a promiscuous history. Because a lot of times, wrestlers tend to sleep with other wrestlers on the road. Because most of the time, that's all they see. I remember Jim Cornette was asked, hey, do you know anybody that ever got into the wrestling business because they were married or dating someone in the business? He said, yeah, everybody before 1995. So there you go. And the only reason they did that was because back then, it was easier to have them in the business because they were already smartened up to how the business works, rather than bringing in a bunch of whole new women and smarten them up. And the only exceptions to the rule were women that were trained in credible wrestling schools. And not a lot of wrestling schools took women in. That's why the Fabulous Moolah had a corner on the market. And I'm not going to get into the Moolah controversy. I'm just saying. And A lot of people are going to hate this part. But you know what also was a big moment for the Bella Twins and their contribution? Total Divas. Now, I know a lot of people out there don't like Total Divas or don't take it seriously. But here's the thing. Today, in 2020, Total Divas is a trashy reality show. It got out of control, and it just basically became a place for like, hey, you're injured and you're a woman, we'll put you on this show. Or, oh, you got a new relationship, we're going to put you on this show now. But for a period of time, when it was just the Bella Twins and Paige and Naomi and Natalya and Eva Marie, God, that's the only, who in my opinion was the only trashy person on that show. Back then, when it was first starting out, it was a big deal for the women. Because like we all said before, they weren't getting a lot of time on TV. So it was a way for the women to get exposure. And because it was on the E! Channel, it gained a big fan base, and it brought in a new female fan base that wasn't really there before. There are female fans who never watched wrestling a day in their lives, watched one season of Total Divas, and are now WWE fans. It brought in a new fan base and allowed the Bellas to cross over into the mainstream, which is something that female wrestlers rarely ever do. Seriously, how often do you see a female wrestler transition to the mainstream? Usually when that happens, they're posing for Playboy. Or they're on Dancing with the Stars, like Stacy Keibler and Nikki Bella eventually did. But at least they were able to accomplish that. So while I do agree there are women who deserve it more that haven't gone in yet, and I do agree the Bellas are going in too early, facts are facts. The Bellas earned the Hall of Fame, and they're deserving the spot that they're in. And if you need further proof, here's this. Nikki Bella got back in the ring after suffering a career-threatening neck injury. And I'll tell you this right now, any wrestler, and I seriously mean this, any wrestler, I don't care who it is, suffers a broken neck in the ring where you're potentially going to be paralyzed, rehabs, and decides to get back in that ring, deserves respect. Any of them. That's why do you think Stone Cold Steve Austin was called the toughest son of a bitch in WWE? It's not because, it wasn't some marketing gimmick. It wasn't because he could drink and brawl. It's because he suffered a broken neck, finished that match with Owen Hart, got rehabbed, and came back. That's why he was called the toughest SOB. Because he came back from a neck injury that changed his whole life and his whole career. And the only reason Nikki's not in that ring right now is because she suffered a cyst in her brain. She has a cyst in her brain. That's what caused her to retire. Now, Brie, she retired because she wanted to be barefoot and pregnant. And even though Nikki now is pregnant, she didn't leave the business because she wanted to be a mom. She left the business because of her cyst in her brain. And, take it a step further, WWE finally has their first ever all-women's pay-per-view. Nikki was the main event against Ronda Rousey. And their promos were on point and helped draw money. So yes, the Bella Twins do deserve the Hall of Fame. Christian deserves the Hall of Fame, but doesn't deserve to go in alone. He deserves to go in with Edge as a tag team. All right. That, ladies and gentlemen, will conclude this episode of Booch Shoots On. Feel free to hit the subscribe button. Ring the bell to be notified so you guys will never miss any episodes of Booch Shoots On. And you can check out other additional YouTube content. And, of course, feel free to comment below whether you agree or disagree with what I said. All I ask, I have one rule. We keep it civilized. No insults, no trolling, no nothing. As long as we can have productive conversation, I welcome you to disagree with me. But if you're just going to be a dick, move along, Snowflake. And until next time, I'll talk to you guys soon. Until then, pizza, baby!